Hello everyone, so my name is Tristan Johannes, and I just wanted to take a moment to do a little bit more of a personal type, kind of like I don't know, what would you call it, a vlog of sorts, to kind of explain the idea behind Project Watch, a little bit of history about like myself and what Watch is and what it means, and everything that I'm trying to do here. So I'm a single dad. I grew up here all my whole life in Wisconsin. I have a 12-year-old daughter that's about to turn 13, and she's my whole world. And without going too far into all that kind of stuff, I want to get into where at one point in my life, I realized that I want to serve people. Like I want to do something for the community. I want to do more. So a little bit after high school, I started this group, and it was a nonprofit organization. Well, I was gearing towards making it about veterans, and Project Watch at the time stood for Wisconsin Always Takes Care of Its Heroes. And I had a friend of mine, I keep pointing at the wrong side, I'm sorry, but I had a friend of mine make this logo for me. And, so I had cups made and a shirt. And I was trying to initially give back to veterans. I was tired of seeing how there was like a huge suicide rate for veterans. And so I got real active. I got real involved. My daughter and I went down. Well, so I was calling, I tried calling Governor Scott Walker at the time. And I kept trying to say, hey, what can I do? Hey, what can I do? Hey, what can I do for veterans? And I never got an answer. So then finally one time I took my daughter down. I wrote a letter. And then I snuck up to the governor's office like on a Saturday or Sunday when the guards weren't there. And I slid a letter under the governor's door. And sure enough, on Monday, I got a call. And it was Scott Walker. And he said, hey, I want to introduce you to, my guy that heads up Veterans Affairs, and you can give him a chat. And so I was like, great. Wind up talking to this guy. His name escapes me at the moment. And I talked about how I wanted to help homeless veterans, and he said, well, there's so many problems with that. Like there's, a lot of like drug issues and homelessness and all that stuff, and PTSD and therapies and everything. So it's really hard to like pinpoint like a certain objective for that. So then he said, well, tell me about yourself. And I said, well, I grew up in a small community. My father runs it was a biker bar in the early days. Now it's more of like a family restaurant and a hotel. And he says, oh, well, tell me more about that. And I said, well, we've done some charity events there. And I just feel like I need to do more for the community. And he says, oh, well, I got this group called Hogs for Heroes. And so I wound up working with them. And I took them on their first poker run. So I've got two Hogs for Heroes pins here. And what they do is they're a nonprofit organization that raises money and then donates a Harley to a veteran with PTSD, because riding a Harley is like soothing, it's relaxing, it's freedom, and I love riding motorcycles. I still do. So I wound up taking them on their first poker run and on their second poker run, and then they got wildly successful. Like I started connecting them with people that I knew, and then they just took off running. And now years later, they're just a really dominant force in that field. I can't even remember what they're up to. It's Kevin and Audrey Thompson started that organization. They worked with me when I was just trying to start Project Watch, and they just took off. And they're very successful today, and that's really cool. I think they're like up to like 60 bikes or something. It's crazy. But anyway, the people that were supposed to help me do this Project Watch kind of all faded into the background, and a lot of that had to do with me and my custody battle that took many, many years, because I was very dedicated to being a dad. And so then over time, we fast forward to 2019, looking into 2020, And all of a sudden, Project Watch was, faded off into the distance. And I did a couple, events because now I live in Hartford, Wisconsin. And I did a couple events for the VFW, local VFW. And we did a couple poker runs, and we raised money for their Sawyer Park. They have a bunch of flags that they put up, for every, veterans related holiday. And it's a wonderful thing. Anyway, and I did a couple of things, like I did this thing called a balloon pop for the Boys and Girls Club, and I just like to do charity work, etc. Well, 2019, 2020 starts happening. They're starting to shut down all the schools. They're starting to shut down all the small businesses. So it's like I'm a dad, number one, and then number two, like I grew up in small businesses and I care about the community. So like I got really upset that it just seemed like government was just pushing way too much. And it wasn't fair. Like all the big Walmarts were open, and every small business was suffering, and all these kids were being deprived of graduation, ceremonies, and all these kids were, forced to stay home on their computer and just, rely upon technology instead of human interaction. And I was really bothered about that. So I started to write every single political person possible to say, this is ridiculous. I wrote Donald Trump at the time, was president. Senator Ron Johnson. I tried to hit all the big names that I could in Congress. I forget his name right off the top of my head. Glenn Grothman was one of them. And then, anyway, the one that responded was the 59th Assembly District Rep, Timothy Rampton, who just finished his first 2 years in office, and he was going into his second 2 years in office, and he got a hold of me and said, well, I'm your rep, and I definitely agree with you. Like, it turns out he's the one who was fighting really hard to end the mask mandates and the shutdowns because Governor Evers kept pushing them. And I have a business and marketing degree, and I sold insurance, so I'm used to office work and stuff. And he says, well, hey, we're going to this meeting. It's like a committee hearing. How would you like to come and check it out? And I said, oh, God, would I? I would love to. And so I did. And after the day was over, I was just ecstatic. I was just yakking his ear off like, oh my gosh, if I could just do this for a living. So if you need to hire anybody, I'd love to do it. And, I was taking notes the whole day and blah, blah, blah. Well, so then eventually I wound up working for him. And there was the whole debacle of, the 2020 election and everything that happened. I know that it's a pretty divisive conversation because, yes, I'm a more conservative-leaning person, but I'm not, ignorant to the left at all. I have a lot of left-leaning friends. Some of them get upset with me because of how political or religious I might be. But at the end of the day, I will listen to you. I will try to reason with you. I will try to find common ground with you. And I do this with anyone that I meet in my life. And so I wind up spending all this time with Tim. I've got this plaque behind me here. Some of these photos are when we were trying to run for governor in Wisconsin. Trying to make the longest story short possible. We were the ones in Wisconsin that decided to say, hey, hold on a second. We've got all this evidence that points to all these laws broken. And so we feel like Wisconsin needs to pull back its 10 electors. And Arizona was doing the same thing. Georgia was trying to do the same thing. Pennsylvania was trying to do the same thing. There's all these efforts across the nation that were working on something similar. And we had all this evidence. So we put it all together. We wrote a bill. Donald Trump actually called us one time and said, hey, I appreciate that there's somebody there that's trying to stand up for some of the shenanigans that happened and trying to do something about it. Nothing ever came of it, but that was kind of a neat moment. So I made a plaque for Tim and I both because that was a big moment for us. Well, then after that, we come to find out that the drop boxes in Wisconsin are illegal by Wisconsin law. And then we uncovered this document that proved that the Speaker of the Assembly, Robin Vos, a Republican who's been there longer than any other Republican in any state, was the one that said, yeah, no, that's cool, we approve that. He was like in the middle of some kind of lawsuit where they were like, hey, you're acting like you were against this, but we have this letter that says you were cool with it. And we got our hands on that, so then we called him out. Well, just so happens that the Supreme Court of Wisconsin came out with a ruling and said, yeah, drop boxes are illegal. And so then we put out a press release saying, well, then why don't we hold the guy that allowed it to happen accountable? And 2 days later, Speaker Robin Vos removed me from Tim's office, and there was some news hubbub about it. It was in the Journal Sentinel. I can't remember who else reported on it, but it was, kind of a big deal, made a big headwave. And then I wound up kind of, losing my job. And I hated it because I had a passion for serving the people. And I worked with Tim. The reason why I feel like we were making so much momentum and gaining so much headway was because we listened. We listened to the people, and then we, fought for what they told us they cared about. And it got to the point where Tim realized, and then obviously I did as well, that there's like a select establishment that is just kind of running everything in politics. And I mean, let's be honest, how many people out there are knowing that there's shady deals going on both sides of the aisle? It's not just a Democrat thing. It's not just a Republican thing. Like, there are like establishment politicians that spend their entire life in there, and they go in and they, make $60,000 a year going in, and then the job pays $100,000 or $120,000 a year, and all of a sudden they're all millionaires. Why is that? Obviously, it's because there's some shady stuff going on. And then they stay in power because they grease all the hands, or whatever you want to call it. So it's a real problem. And all these people wind up getting in there, and they're looking out for themselves instead of the people. And I feel like a lot of the problems that we're facing today are because of that. So backtracking just a hair, after I lost my job, Tim and I both kind of realized that, well, him as an assembly district rep, there's not a whole lot we can do because you've got Robin Vos sitting over the top of it, who can just fire you in an instant. And, take away your staff if you don't, adhere or do what he says, or point out where he's at fault for something. And that was crap. Because I don't care if it's a Democrat or Republican. If you're doing stuff that's shady, then you need to go, period. The reason why everybody hates politics is because they all promise you the world and they do nothing. And we were trying to do something. So we decided to run for governor, and we lost, obviously. And I feel like a lot of that has to do with the fact that we just didn't have the same kind of money to throw around like the rest of them do. Which is crap, too, because if you, whoever you are watching this, cares enough to get activated like I was, and gets involved in those kinds of things, it shouldn't be that you get defeated because the other guy just has been there longer and has more money than you. That's crap. And because he's been there longer and has more money than you, he's probably further out of touch with the people that are being affected by the things that, he's doing, or he or she is doing, to line their pockets, It's just crap. And so now that everything's been kind of settled down, and I've been out of politics for a little while, just managing a small business here in Hartford, I want to try and get back into it because I'm seeing that things are getting worse. I'm still a father. I'm still seeing that the way that the world is going is not good. Groceries are through the roof. Why? All of our jobs are going everywhere. There's a huge immigration problem. There's a huge drug problem. the crime rates in cities are just insane. There's just content all over that's just trying to grab your kids. I mean, like, pedophilia is like trying to be normalized right now. Like, it's just madness. Like, I just don't understand. People's rights are continually being taken away, or threatened to be taken away. It's not a good thing. So I can't remember who said it, but the person who does nothing is just as guilty as the person who's trying to be evil or do evil deeds. Good men who do nothing. Anyway, so I got this idea. Why don't I try to reinvent Project Watch? The passion that I had to serve the people. Yeah, I can't get a job in government, especially in Wisconsin, because the one that's been kind of running the show for a while and has all the power is like, don't you dare hire that guy. And then he's the one that signs off on it and says, okay, well, oh, you want to hire that guy? Well, I'm not going to okay, the allocation of funding to pay his salary or whatever. So why not start an organization that's just dedicated strictly to the people outside of government? And there's tons of organizations that do this already. And I feel like there's a lot more that are kind of geared to the left side of the aisle. And while there might be some that are geared towards the right side of the aisle, I want to make sure that this is about the middle. This is about the people. Because I feel like the reason why we're also here is because those in power do a really good job of making sure that people are fighting each other and not focused on who's causing them to fight each other and causing all their problems. And I feel like our founding fathers created a constitutional republic, and when it was working and the people were free and the government power was limited, we created the United States of America, the most powerful nation on the planet. And it worked, and it was working for quite a while, and then it started to decline because we went away from that. So I want to talk about bringing that back again, and I want to invite the people on both sides of the aisle to come and check out Project Watch. So that said, and I'm going a long time here, but I have a mission statement drafted, and I'm starting to make some of these videos. I built this little studio at my house to just try and start getting some weekly content out there, because Project Watch, when I started it initially, I never finished submitting the paperwork to the state to make it official. I just held events, and I had like the logos, and I had everything else, but I never actually like submitted all the final paperwork to say this is what this organization is doing and what it's for. So now I'm doing that. I have a mission statement drafted, and I made like a commercial that's a little bit more like, hey, with a little more production value. And I felt it was necessary to make a video that's a little less production value and a little more explaining about the history of who I am and where this is coming from and what the vision is. But Project Watch is going to watch the government for the people. And this includes from every level. So if anybody has a concern on any level, on either side of the aisle, so from school board all the way up to the president, and you have a concern about what's going on with government, and you've got something that can show, hey, this was shady, I can prove it, bring it here. We'll elevate you. We'll elevate everything that you're trying to make that point, because that person who did that shady thing is not just affecting you, they're affecting everyone who they oversee. And this can go all the way up to the top of the wall, whether it's our kids in schools, whether it's our county, whether it's your city, whether it's assembly on the state level, or all the way up to the federal level. People that manipulate the process of government that was set to limit power to the government and honor the rights and freedoms of individuals, are the ones that are causing the problems. The reason why we're here in this state, where we're seeing, and let's be honest, the decline of our way of life, of our nation. I think less than half the world uses the dollar now. It's a thing. And the reason for that is because we've strayed from the formula that works. We're free people. We're allowed to prosper. And when those things are honored, the people, when they're heard, actually see like a reflective government that allows them to fully prosper, which did create the most diverse and free nation on the planet, the most innovative, strongest economically, strongest militarily. It invites people from all over the globe to have pride in it. There's a process where people can come from wherever they're from and integrate their cultures into this one and be able to share their ideas and create new innovative things. It worked for how long? And the only way that it's failing is because we're not adhering to the rules. So I want to bring them back. A couple other things. I feel like, the way, I want to talk about, what the vision is here. So, I want it to be a nonprofit organization that is capable of fundraising, and then that fundraising will go towards elevating candidates willing to run against these corrupt individuals. And then, people can bring their grievances against these corrupt individuals and then support the ones willing to run. And then, obviously, there'll be, a vetting process and all that, but it'll be an introductory way for them to get their voices out there and compete against these people that have all these extra resources and money and media and all that to drown out those voices. And the more people that join that individually, especially in specific target areas that are relevant to who's voting for who, we could make a big difference. We could have entire volunteer teams go out and knock doors for these individuals. We could we could just start podcasts and try to get them popular, and then over time this will grow, and maybe it'll be the next Daily Wire or the next I don't know what other real big popular ones there are out there these days, but you'll be able to connect with larger influencers and make this happen, and maybe over time we can become those large influencers. But the kicker is it's got to be about the people. As soon as there's any kind of shady behavior that's kind of looking like you're, see you later. Because it's about accountability. The only way that we can hold these political people accountable is by getting them the heck out of there. And, maybe eventually start advocating. Another thing we could do is advocate for the term limits, because that keeps fresh minds in that, will be closer to the will of the people at the time. Because let's face it, these 67-year-old guys don't have a clue what it's like for the 22-year-old guy that's, struggling to keep gas in his tank so he can get to work. Or the 30-something dad who's struggling to keep groceries in the fridge for his kids. These politicians have no clue what that's like. And then having a system of government that says, oh, well, we'll steal other people's tax dollars to pay for our food, that's crap too. No. Everybody should have the same opportunities and prosperous freedom to grow. I'd like to try and have videos and email updates, hold events all over the state. I'd like to make this, organization be kind of an umbrella for all the existing groups that are already out there doing this kind of thing, so that we can coordinate together to make it more effective. One thing I noticed when I was running for governor and running the campaign stuff was that there's a lot of people that are fired up out there, but they didn't have a coordinated effort. It was just a mishmash of, hopefully so-and-so will show up, or hopefully we can get that done, or, flying by the seat of your pants. There wasn't the structure, there wasn't the coordination. So we want to offer that as well. We'd like to have a website and then like a link to all sorts of socials, which would include like donations. And then one of the other things too that was a big thing was kind of taking. This is why I want to talk about targeting like the middle ground. I don't want it to be a conservative, let's attack the left type of a situation. I want it to be about bringing the people together to discuss ideas as our forefathers intended. Sure, it'll get heated sometimes. Yes, we will disagree. That's okay. That needs to be encouraged. That type of culture needs to come back. If we're working together, all this divisiveness will start to go away, and we'll actually start to find middle ground and solutions. Also, we'll be able to get those people that stay away from politics because they don't like that to actually start paying attention. I'd love to try and take all the noise and all the crap and all the divisiveness and get it the hell out of the way and simplify the situation so that people understand that we're here because they're not involved, and make it cool to be involved and make it fun to be involved, and let those people feel the effects of actually engaging in the community and making a difference. Because when we once upon a time had that, and now we don't. Yes, one could argue that it's because we spend too much time on the computer and on the phone and this and that, but we could also utilize those same tools to bring together the community as well and start trending things, about we the people. And the kicker too with all of this is that it can be peaceful as intended. There's no need for big riot kind of, violent activity of any kind, hate, any of that. No. Because if you have a coordinated group of large people that are standing together to say, dude, you messed up. How many times have these politicians just got away with it? Both sides, yeah. Some people will say, oh, Donald Trump did A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Some people will say, Hillary Clinton did A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And, you could argue on both sides, yeah, oh, well, he did that or she did that. And, but at the end of the day, even if you had all the proof in the world, nothing happens. Why not? Because we don't unite together to hold the true corruption accountable. Ever. Let's do that. Let's do that with Project Watch. I was trying to come up with a new acronym. We are the corruption, or we watch the corruption here. I don't know. We'll come up with it. Welcome along for the ride. I'm going to have a website. I'm going to have emails. I'm going to have, a store where you can get yourself, a coffee cup or a shirt or hat. And all of that will go towards the donations. I want to make sure that it is a completely open and transparent in every shape, way, or form. There's organizations out there, some are nefarious, and they take large amounts of money and then they put it towards something and then they just kind of try to keep it under wraps. No, absolutely not. We're going to celebrate it. We're going to say, hey, we raised X amount of dollars for so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. And we can do this in any way. It doesn't need to just be for candidates that we're trying to raise, money to run up against the, the more established ones. It could be, right now, there was a guy, Zingzyme, but there was a family that wanted to use the ivermectin, because he was laying on his deathbed, but then the government was saying, well, no, you can't do that. And he had to go through all these legal troubles, and this is still an ongoing situation. But in Tim's office, I was able to kind of point him in the right direction, get him started and all that stuff. And that effort's still going on today. We can just help average citizens that are kind of being constricted because of government. Maybe it's something as simple as, the DNR's coming in and saying, hey, you have to tear down your house and you just have to do it. Why? Well, if we as Watch go, well, that's crap, let's hold an event and raise money so the guy can build a new house, so the guy can pay for the renovations that the government is telling him he's got to do, stuff like that. And then the cool thing is that anyone in any community could do this for any reason, and we will try to provide you with resources on how to fundraise and where to go, and then we'll come and sponsor it so that it's tax deductible and it's tax free, and you can have raffle licenses and it's all legal and legitimate. Maybe you say, hey, for having Watch come, give us a little portion of it so that we can put it towards the organization as a whole. But then we'll come in and we'll bring the cameras and we'll bring our crew and we'll bring it, and we'll put the message out there for you and try to blow it up for you, etc., etc. I think it'd be a wonderful thing. I think it'd be a resource for people, the small people, to have a loud voice. Because how many of us get drowned out by, a corrupt political person, or the loud mainstream media, or censored on social media, or just to give the small man a voice by combining all of our voices. That's kind of the vision. I also kind of want to talk about perhaps having, we're going to have guests, but then have surveys. If we're going to talk about hot topics, why not have surveys and then once a week have those results come out? Some people believe that polls are skewed. And I don't want to, become a huge pollster or anything, but, and whenever we talk about any of these topics that are going on, we can hold small polls and say, hey, this is, what the people care about. This is what the people want to talk about. This is what, and then over time, they can be like, oh, well, snap. This Project Watch group that's gaining a lot of momentum is saying that this is what the people want. Maybe we should listen. So anyway, it's about returning the rights and the powers back to the people, because that brought the most success, and we need to bring that back, especially for our children. I'm not liking the way the world's headed, and this is my attempt to try to do something about it. So hopefully, obviously this is infancy stages, but thank you for listening in, and this is Tristan Johannes tuning out. Stay tuned for more information on Project Watch. I'll be continually working on this in my spare time until maybe we can start really getting this to take off. So stay tuned. God bless, and thank you for watching.